Hey, high school literacy leaders. This is DLC Foster Yankee, and I'd like to welcome you back to Curriculum Chats. In this video, I'll be discussing the fourth lesson in the first section of the Alexander Hamilton unit. Here are the goals, teaks, and ELPs for this lesson. Students will paraphrase and summarize songs from Act 1 of Hamilton in ways that maintain meaning and logical order. They will also discuss and write about the explicit and implicit meanings of Act 1 of Hamilton. Finally, students will analyze how Miranda develops complex yet believable characters through the historical and cultural settings and events depicted in Hamilton. We have several texts students will be using for this lesson, including 3 core texts. One is the book, Hamilton the Revolution. They'll also use the soundtrack for the musical. And there is a YouTube video of the 70th Annual Tony Awards performance of Hamilton. An optional text is the Disney Plus film version of Hamilton. Okay, a couple of materials will be utilized in this lesson as well, including 2 tools. One is the Alexander Hamilton Act 1 Notice and Wonder note-taking tool. They'll also utilize the Summarizing Text tool. 2 reference guides. One is the Annotating and Note-taking reference guide. The other is the Questioning reference guide. And question sets, either the Alexander Hamilton Section 1 optional film question set or the just regular version of the question set. Hey, our lesson overview is we will continue to explore the question, who is Alexander Hamilton? We will listen to the final 11 songs from Act 1 of Hamilton and will track our thinking about the characters as well as where we are confused or need additional background knowledge. Now we'll take a closer look at the 6 activities that make up lesson 4. Hey, in activity 1, students are listening to and reading the lyrics of the songs Wait for It, Stay Alive, 10 Dual Commandments, Meet Me Inside, and That Would Be Enough. Then adding their responses to the Act 1 Notice and Wonder note-taking tool to track their observations, thoughts, and questions in the correct sections. As they do this, they also think about the questions on the screen. So, what Revolutionary War war events are described, and what new information have you gained about Alexander Hamilton? After which, they share their observations, thoughts, and questions with a partner. I noticed in this activity, students are using one page of this tool to capture notes for all 5 of these songs instead of having a page per song like they did in previous activities. So teachers may want to provide some guidance on how to fit 5 songs worth of notes onto one page. Some suggested supports are pausing between each song to give students time to take their notes. The teacher might also have students listen to the songs in small groups or with partners so they can pause and re-listen to parts of the songs as necessary, depending on the needs of their group. There are also supports offered based on specific struggles with comprehending the text, along with some literacy toolbox tools that may be beneficial. The curriculum also provides questions that to push students who may benefit from an additional challenge. For engagement, I like the idea of having students listen to the songs in pairs or small groups. If the teacher does decide to go that route, they should definitely wrap up this activity with a whole group discussion of the 2 questions students were thinking about. I would also add any new information gained about Alexander Hamilton to a class anchor charts. Activity 2 is optional and has students viewing songs from the filmed stage production of Hamilton and referring to the lyrics in Hamilton the Revolution book as needed, instead of just listening to the songs. Just as in the previous activity, they're adding responses to the Act 1 Notice and Wonder note-taking tool in the appropriate section and thinking about the questions on the screen. So these questions here. Afterwards, the teacher facilitates a whole class discussion in which students share their observations first, thoughts second, and questions last. Some suggested supports. The teacher should pre-plan whether they will play the video straight through the 5 songs or if they will stop after each to allow students time to record their thoughts. They can use some or all of the discussion questions to support students in further unpacking the songs and scenes from the musical, focusing on the ways in which the visual and dramatic elements contribute to and convey meaning, as well as convey Miranda's perspective and purpose. I can see the benefits of having students listen to the songs in pairs or groups or watching the video. So, which route the teacher decides to go should be based on the needs of their students. In Activity 3, students read the lyrics and listen to the songs Guns and Ships, History Has Its Eyes on You, and Yorktown, then add responses to their Act 1 Notice and Wonder note taking tool to track their observations, thoughts, and questions in the correct sections. As they do this, they are thinking about the questions on the screen, so same questions from Activity 1. Next, the class watches a YouTube video of the 70th annual Tony Awards Hamilton performance, in which the cast performs History Has Its Eye on You and Yorktown. As they watch, students continue taking notes on the Act 1 Notice and Wonder note taking tool. They wrap up the activity by sharing their observations, thoughts, and questions with a partner. With the exception of the YouTube video, this activity is pretty much identical to Activity 1, so the same supports apply. Depending on class time, the teacher might decide not to show the video of the performance. As students share out their questions, I will capture them on the KWL chart started in Lesson 1. Allow anyone who is able to answer the questions that arise. For questions that can't be answered by someone in the class, have students do some research. Or if the question is something that will be answered later, put an asterisk next to it on the chart. So that KWL chart should be a living, interactive anchor chart in the classroom. In Activity 4, students listen to and read the lyrics of the songs What Comes Next, Dear Theodosia, and Nonstop, then add responses to their Act 1 Notice and Wonder note taking tool to track their observations, thoughts, and questions in the correct sections. As they do this, they are thinking about the questions on the screen. What information do you learn from King George's song, and what new information have you gained about Alexander Hamilton? Afterwards, students share their observations, thoughts, and questions with a partner. This activity is also identical to Activity 1, so I would suggest using the same supports. Activity 5 is optional and pretty much identical to Activity 2. Students watch the Disney Plus performances of Guns and Ships, History Has Its Eyes on You, Yorktown, What Comes Next, Dear Theodosia, and Nonstop, referring to the lyrics in the book as needed. While watching, they add responses to their Act 1 Notice and Wonder note taking tool in the appropriate sections to track their observations, thoughts, and questions for each song and its scene. They are also thinking about the questions on the screen, same questions from Activity 2. To wrap up the activity, the teacher facilitates a whole class discussion in which students share their observations first, thoughts second, and questions last. In this lesson's final activity, which is listed as a homework activity, students use the summarizing text tool to summarize the plot of Nonstop. So the purpose is to have students keep track of what has happened in Hamilton so far. A suggested support would be to provide some clarification on what constitutes a key detail when writing this type of summary. The teacher might also challenge students to limit their summary to a certain number of sentences. So there are many possible cubs for this lesson, depending on whether or not the teacher shows the Disney Plus performance, and also based on if Activity 6 is completed in class or for homework. This cub is for if students complete Activity 6 in class. So we have students will know the people / characters and events in Act 1 of Hamilton. Students will understand which characters and events in Act 1 are significant, and students will be able to summarize the plot of Nonstop from Act 1 of Hamilton in writing using the summarizing text tool. Okay, the second cub is for if students' instruction stops at Activity 4. It's pretty similar to the cub I think that I wrote for Lesson 1. The goal for this whole first section is basically for students to know who Alexander Hamilton is. So we're still accumulating that knowledge in this lesson, which is why that's our note. We're doing that in order to understand how Miranda develops complex yet believable characters through the historical and cultural settings and events depicted in Hamilton. And students will demonstrate their learning by discussing these questions with a partner in activity 4, which are the 2 questions I included as part of the Be Able To. The teacher might have students record their answer to one or both of these questions as an exit ticket. Okay, that's a wrap for this video. I welcome your feedback and look forward to hearing from you either on Twitter, via email, or in the comments. While you're here, don't forget to subscribe so you never have to worry about missing a video. Thanks for watching.